Hey y'all, what is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba for Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and it's time for another Mondays with Melba. First off, huge welcome to the new subscribers to my YouTube channel. We're going to hopefully have some fun together and definitely like this video, share with your friends, and let's make sure that we are creating education as well as civic engagement by sharing information, right? Because that's how movements happen. So, going to be quick and dirty again today. Going to talk about two key topics. First off, Hurricane Beryl. As many of you may know, Hurricane Beryl was the first hurricane to become a Category 5 storm in history so early in the season. So hurricane seasons June to November, usually you see a lot of activity, more so August and September, really affecting the folks in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, that sort of thing. So what we saw in this storm is that it got started really early and it has just laid such devastation to so many parts of the Caribbean. As many of you may know, I'm half Jamaican, half Trinidadian. I spend a lot of time in Jamaica, have a lot of family in Jamaica. So seeing a Category 5 storm that literally the entire island was in the cone of you know, being affected was really, really scary. So it was a rough last week. I will say that because I did not get a lot of sleep, but be that as it may, luckily only 11 people were killed as a result of the storm. Of course, thoughts and prayers to everybody who's been affected. But for folks who want to take more action, I'm going to drop some resources in the chat, but I would suggest donating to World Central Kitchen. They are on the ground right now in Jamaica, as well as in Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All of those islands sustained massive damage to different parts. So they're on the ground handing out meals, making sure people are fed, because the reality is, if your belly's not full, you can't even think about trying to rebuild or find shelter or do anything else because, again, you just can't think straight. So having that food is critical, as well as, of course, helping those first responders who are going out and working to restore electrical service, working to restore cell service on the island, right? So the World Central Kitchen's really amazing. So I'm going to leave the link to that in the comments so folks can donate there. And then there's also the South Florida Caribbean Strong Fund. Basically, it's a group of organizations that have gotten together, including the Miami Foundation, where you can, number one, donate money to be able to support the relief efforts. You can also buy items. There's an Amazon wish list, so you can order items on Amazon that would go to an organization called GEM. They are on the ground handing out relief items, and it just lists off a bunch of different ways that you can engage. So I will drop both of those in the comments so that folks can hopefully chip in any way that they can, because it's a really terrifying thing to literally wake up in the morning and see your entire life's collection of things, of memories, just gone. Folks in the Caribbean are resilient. They're very happy that they have life, but it's still very devastating to have lost everything. So definitely ship in if you can. Luckily, my family is fine. Some folks are without power, some are without water, but definitely better off than some other areas. So there's that. Now, the second thing I want to chat about today is getting election ready. So we are now in July, and primaries in Florida are coming up in August. I know around the country, there's also other primary elections this summer. So I'm going to give a lot of Florida-centric information, but all of this can be applied to your local jurisdiction, wherever you may be. So first off, primaries are really, really important. Folks sleep on it. They're thinking about November. They're thinking about the presidential. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. There's definitely a whole lot to talk about there. But in terms of the primaries, this is the opportunity to be able to vote for folks that, if you're in the Democratic Party, Democrats that are running, and Republicans that may be trying to vie for a particular seat. So, for instance, here in Florida, for the first time in Miami-Dade County, we're actually going to be voting on who our sheriff should be. We haven't had a sheriff in, quite a few years. There was a constitutional amendment where we basically decided to redo the charter and make that an elected position versus an appointed position by the mayor as it had been for the last bit. So now there's a Republican primary with regards to the sheriff's candidates, and there's a Democratic primary with regards to the sheriff's candidates. So whatever party you're registered with, you have to make a decision as to who the best person is you think should go to the general election in November. This is really, really important. Number one, because it's a way to let your voice be heard. Number two, it's a way to shape the direction of the party, because if the party is seeing that a certain type of candidate is not winning and is not viable, then it is more likely that they may expand and look towards other types of candidates. So especially on the Republican side, there are folks who are more conservative that don't quite subscribe to the MAGA ideals, right? So if you're not a MAGA person, but you're a Republican, it's kind of important that you vote in the primaries so that you are voting for candidates who are not MAGA affiliated, right? Same thing on the Democratic side. If you're much more progressive, or if you're more moderate Democrat, based on your views, based on your political opinions, you're going to want to vote for a candidate that aligns with those views. So it's really important that you do your research in advance. You can get a sample ballot so that way you can have the time to research the different candidates, know where they stand. And also you can just, also figure out what offices are on the ballot for the primaries and what offices are only going to be there for the general. That's going to vary based on your jurisdiction, right? Based on whatever city you live in, whatever state. So definitely, check those things out. For my Florida folks, because of a change in the law, if you vote by mail, you have to go back in and request another vote by mail ballot. Before, you used to be able to just request it once and that'll cover you for the next few elections. Not anymore. So for every election cycle, you have to request a new vote by mail ballot. You can do that, and I'm going to drop the website in the comments, but that is vote.org. Vote.org is like the most amazing elections website because of the fact that you can register to vote there, you can check your status, you can get a sample ballot, you can, read about the different offices that are up for election, and it applies in all 50 states. So you just literally go in, you put in your zip code, and it pulls up everything that you need to know. So there's no excuse not to be election ready. So you can go on there, check out your sample ballot, and then also, again, renew your vote by mail ballot request. So when you do it for this go round in August, that covers you for August, the primary elections, and it also covers you for the November general election. But now in the next cycle in 2026, the midterms, you will have to reapply again to get your vote by mail ballot. Not apply, excuse me, it's a request. You're requesting a vote by mail ballot. So you will have to do that again in 2 years. So just a reminder to do that, because if you're hanging out and you don't go in and specifically request it, election day is going to come meet you and you're still waiting for your vote by mail ballot. And you're like, but I haven't gotten it. What's the story, right? If you didn't request one, you're not going to get it. So make sure to request it. Now, if you decided you want to vote in person, early voting is 2 weeks before election day. So I'll be making sure to post those dates, but you can vote basically between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. At a few select locations, but it's not has to be your particular polling place, right? You can vote at any of the early voting locations. It's a great way to get in and get out, especially on the weekends. There's never anybody there. So that's just a quick way to be able to vote, especially if you know that on election day, you may not be able to get the time off, or if the line is too long, you're going to have to go back to work. So that's another way to help you plan accordingly. So I firmly support and suggest vote by mail because it's just easier. I vote by mail. But if you can't make it work, then go ahead and do some early voting, because then that way you can get it out the way and not have to deal with the election day lines. So regardless, however you choose to do it, vote by mail, vote in person early, or vote on election day, just make sure to vote, okay? Because this is a very critical election. And lastly, before I sign off today, going to give you guys the heads up on Project 2025. You've been hearing a lot more about it recently. It is a plan that's like 900 pages long that was written by the Heritage Foundation and a group of really conservative folks that mostly served under the last presidential administration. Y'all, it's scary. It is a very scary thing. And it's not just like, oh my gosh, we're beating our chests and freaking out. Oh my gosh, things are so scary. No, they literally want to dismantle the federal government the way that it stands. They want to give the president more power over civil servants, meaning that basically everything is going to become a political appointment. So offices that shouldn't be politicized, like the EPA or the IRS or folks like that, I'm not talking about the heads. I'm talking about the actual people that are doing the work. They're looking for more ways to, number one, fire those people, and number two, take away their powers. So that becomes an issue because if you have a president that's not exactly being about the right thing, right, they can use that power and weaponize it. They're looking at really stripping all kinds of abortion access, meaning there's no choice. Like no one is going to have abortion access. They want to basically dismantle the schools and make everything for profit so that it's more about charter schools and private schools. And they're all like, oh, yeah, it's school choice. But again, we had public schools for a reason, right? It's so that you don't have to shuffle around and bus your kid over here and bus your kid over there. And if you want to send your kid to private school, then you stick your hand in your pocket and you pay for it, right? But the baseline should be a good education. If you go to any public school, you should be able to come out with a high school diploma that is useful, that you're able to now go apply to college, go if you decide to go into a vocational trade, do that. But instead of defunding our schools and then turning everything into like a pay for play type situation, which again only benefits the people that are wealthy or have these types of businesses. So I encourage you all to read about it. I know it might be a little painful to try to read all 900 pages. I have not done so, so I will not make anyone do that, but at least read about some of the coverage, read some excerpts of it, so at least you can get an idea of what this is about. And make sure to have a plan to vote in November as well. But don't worry, I will keep everyone posted on that as well. And I will also, I do have a playlist on YouTube that highlights all the Mondays with Melbas that I've done with folks that are on the ballot for the primaries coming up, as well as for the general. So you can check that out if you're based in Florida. I've got a few candidates from around the state that are in all different levels: state attorney, state rep, Senate, everything. So these are the types of offices that are going to be on the ballot for both the primary and the general coming up this year. These are all Florida-based candidates. So again, if you're a Florida person looking to see what's going on with the candidates, check out that playlist, but also be sure to research their opponents as well, so you know exactly who you're voting for and what you're voting against. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.